Have you ever wondered what it takes to successfully raise money? I have worked with hundreds of capital campaigns across dozens of industries, and I'm here to share with you proven methods for raising money in record time and at the lowest cost, while also obtaining capital at the lowest price. My name is Karl Dakin, and welcome to Motivated Money. Hello, this is Karl Dakin, and this is the Motivated Money podcast. And I have with me here today Dr. Amanda, and I can't pronounce her last name because I'm from Kansas and we don't know how to pronounce anything with that many vowels in it. So I will let her introduce herself in just a moment. The Motivated Money podcast is here to help entrepreneurs learn how to raise capital. And in doing that, we have my approach, which has been built on 40 years, working with hundreds of different capital campaigns, where we try to identify those people who stand to benefit the most from the success of your organization, so that in their own self-interest, they're going to help you. They're either going to invest in you or find you investor candidates or get you prepared to receive money. And so we focus on that so that you can get through your capital campaign as quickly, efficiently as possible and get back to business. So Amanda has been working with women entrepreneurs, and I know some of you guys think this is a strange concept, and we know that's true because statistically, if you look at the amount of money that's invested into women entrepreneurs compared to men entrepreneurs, it's ridiculously, stupidly different. Even though I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs, they go, yeah, but when I go to raise money, it's not you raising money. We have a problem. And part of it's a system. Part of it's a natural built-in cultural resistance to ever giving a woman any money at all. And so we're gonna ask Amanda to explain to us why it's so hard for her to raise money. So that you all will now learn about this and we'll all get better at this.
I love it. We're going to have a fun conversation. You know, my PhD's in sociology with a focus on gender. So I have a lot of, it's been a while since I've been in that world, but I think a lot about women and power and money and patriarchy and all the things. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I assume that you're a fan of the movie where it's a matriarchy instead of a patriarchy.
Yes and no. I mean, you know, when I started my business, I worked with almost exclusively men because my dissertation research was with incarcerated men. And so I did life history interviews with incarcerated men and looked at their histories of trauma and gang involvement and incarceration and all the things. And so when I stepped into coaching world, I would always tell stories. And I think the men, when I would share the stories, I'd be like, oh, if she's heard all of these horrible stories, she can hear my story too. And it was such a gift because I'd have people say to me, you know, the guys I was interviewing, they would cry and be like, I've never told anyone these things. And I really realized that people just want to be heard, you know? It's like we have so much inside of us that needs to be let out. And especially in terms of money, there's a lot of shame and fear and embarrassment and guilt and just all the things that are stored in our consciousness and subconsciousness about money. And so, you know, I like to talk to both men and women, and a lot of my business is to empower women because I agree with you. I think we need to have, you know, like, let's see, my NFA Money mamas the other day were talking about it. We need like a warrior class of women entrepreneurs, you know, that are out there making the big bucks in the world.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that we just had such an extended period of time where only men were hired to do things and only men then had experience, and then they go, well, I'm going to invest in those people who have experience.
Of course.
And there wasn't really any sexism entering into it. It was just a statistical response. But like any time where you find yourself asking the question, well, this is disproportionate, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Then the hard question is, what do you do to overcome that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question. I mean, you're really talking about a systemic problem and a macro system problem. So to me, coming out of sociology and coming into coaching, I really started to look a lot at the micro power versus the macro system and thinking, okay, let's empower individuals to make big money, make big impact in the world. And it starts there. It's going to take time to change the system. You know, if you think about it, the Fair Credit Act in 1976, you know, it's like women couldn't get a loan or buy a house without a man co-signing until 1976. It's not that long ago. And so it's going to take some time for these things to change.
Yeah, I mean, they passed the law, and then it's kind of like it seems a generation has to pass.
Yeah.
Before somebody says, we did remove that restriction.
Right. Yeah, because we have to unlearn those ways of being. And we need to think about women as empowered, as being empowered. And I think women are learning to think of themselves as being empowered.
Well, and part of the challenge I have is, of course, I'm working with women all the time, and we're all doing stuff together. And I just kind of skip over it. Oh, they're a woman. It didn't occur to me to think of them that way or decide that way. And yet when they go to talk to somebody else, that's not always the same situation.
Yeah.
So what would you say that you would recommend to a woman to break that thought process or make it on the table without making it an issue?
Yeah. These are great questions. It's so interesting. I'll share this with you. It's funny. This last night I went to dinner with, we're at this group right now, and we went to dinner and it was me and like 18 guys. So it's like, it's often in the business world, it's still male dominated. And so for me, what I do is it's just like centering yourself in your power and allowing yourself to show up authentically as a woman. Like, you don't have to become a man to be successful. Just be yourself. And so a lot of what I teach people is accessing their personal power to be magnetic. And, that's really what my book is about. I'm a money magnet. And it's about magnetism, because the energy that we put out there is what people bring back to us. So if you're sitting there feeling less than, which is, I know this well because I used to feel this way all the time, like very marginalized. So I'd always be sitting in a room going like, I'm not as good as anyone here. Everyone knows more than me. I'm not as smart. I'm not as whatever, and definitely not as rich. I was on food stamps. And so it was like, I would always be negatively comparing myself to other people. And I think when you're in a subordinated class, like women have been historically, you automatically feel that way. And so you've actually got to train your brain to feel different. And you've got to start to boost yourself up and be your own greatest inner cheerleader when you're in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, I actually will admit that as a man, I felt that way many times.
Yeah.
You walk into the room and you're thinking, well, everybody here, actually, this event that Amanda's talking about, dealing with podcasting, I go, I probably know less about podcasting than anyone else that's here. And I turn on what I call my listen mode. I typically will not ask questions or put myself out there because I don't feel comfortable that I'm not going to totally embarrass myself. And as I proved earlier this morning when I basically slammed half the people in the room, during the meeting because I gave them a label and generalized, I guess I got over that fear a little bit. But
well, and to me, that's what makes you personable. I think it's like, sometimes it's like, stop being so damn sensitive, like my ex-husband called me the feminazi. Like, I was so intense about women's rights for a while, and it made it was off-putting.
Oh, it is.
It's horrible. It doesn't work. You
could really off-put me if you come in with that attitude.
Absolutely.
That I'm entitled. And I'm going, no, you're basically like me. You're going to have to prove yourself.
Yeah, and if we could just see everybody as an individual person and then just let everyone shine in their unique way, like, okay, awesome. And feminists would hate me saying that because it's like, make it equal and it's everyone else's job. And this is really where, my own history, I realized like, hey, if you have a victim mentality and you keep treating yourself like a victim, you're always going to be victimized. And so I really shifted my mindset to like, hey, I am the only person who's the center of my reality that can change this for me and my experience. And when I started to do that, I realized guys are scared too. And that was such a huge gift for me because I thought, like, I always had this idea that, like, men had everything figured out and they always felt great.
No.
Right? And then I realized, like, no, we all feel the same, really. Like, we make up a lot of theories about why that's the case, but realistically, we're all humans and we all feel the same.
Yeah, and it has been a common topic in a lot of my podcasts. We talk about entrepreneurs are, I'll say, built differently, think differently. And we will go out and do things that have a risk associated with it because maybe it's never been done before.
Yeah.
And that crosses over to things we've never done before. And sometimes we forget the distinction between those two. When you bring a new product or service to market, you are doing something different. It's a form of innovation. It might be very minor, almost minuscule, or it could be something that is so disruptive, you're certain that 80% of people are hating you because you're making them rethink everything they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's a little more challenging. But there was a saying I heard early in my career that a man of quality should not fear a woman seeking equality.
Oh, I like that.
I thought that set well with me. I felt it made me comfortable in the way I was working with women at the time. But I still find that when I work with women entrepreneurs, as you say, there is this fear. It's like, I can't ask for that. I can't do that. And I'm like, no, you can ask.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're asking that person over there says no, well, getting no is a common ingredient of raising capital.
Yeah.
I was saying, you know, I've been told no so many times. I'm pretty sure I understand the word now. But it's not really, you're not getting turned down. What you are is you're affirming that they don't care about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you've communicated it clearly and they understand what you're trying to do, then if they say no, it's just not a match.
Exactly. It doesn't mean anything about you. Yeah. It's just not a good match.
You shouldn't take it personally. You might take it personally, but
yeah. Well, some people are nicer about their nose than others.
Some are. And on a bad day, I'm in that wrong category.
Yeah.
Let me see how much crispness I can put on this no, or hang up on people. I hate people who call me without appointments and then try to sell me something.
Yeah, of course. None of us like that, though.
About 100 people have asked me to do that today.
I had a funny situation once where I had a LinkedIn connection call, and the guy got. Of course, it was a guy because the women don't. I don't think we've ever had a woman do this, but it was a guy who got on. He just started selling at me, and it was awesome because in my more empowered version of myself, I'm just like, and I just said, hey, let me stop you there. And I said, does this strategy work for you? And he was like, he said, what do you mean? And I said, are you making sales this way? And he said, no. And I'm like, can I help you? And he turned into a client.
That's excellent.
It was amazing.
That is so excellent. Yes, because they started in the sales spiel, and you're like, okay, if you were the first person to ever call me with this service, it might be different. I would listen because I'd want to learn about it.
Yeah.
When you're the 100th person, and I already have a cadre of people doing this for me, I have no interest.
Yeah. And
if you will not stop talking, then we do have what we call the exit button, and we move on.
Yeah.
So I'm always, as I say, interested in how a person gets to that point of overcoming the challenge, whether it's a personal concern or a fear or whatever it is. And then, as I see it, the deck stacked against you as a woman. So what do you do to kind of neutralize that? And I hear what you're saying. You're saying, be yourself. Go out and do what you want to do. Most of the problems will disappear automatically unless you run into some idiot guy.
Yeah.
In this case, although some women are just as
absolutely
bad or worse.
Yeah.
So do you do anything special at that point?
Yeah, for me, it was a lot of, I'm a mindset coach. Ultimately, I help people transform their mindset. So I call myself the money healer because I had a group of clients I worked with who called me that. And I'm like, I love that, like helping people heal their mindset around money. And for women and empowerment and gaining financial status, money mindset is really important. And so you want to just start playing with digging into your subconscious beliefs and realizing that until you get into enough pain, you're not going to take action. We're animals and we live by the pleasure pain principle. So for me, I was in a lot of pain. I had left my 15-year marriage having an affair. My next relationship wasn't working. I'm on food stamps. I'm looking at I don't know where I'm going to live. Already working extra jobs while I'm in grad school with my 3 kids. And it was like, I was in a lot of pain. And so I think for some people, you've got to choose to change. And, what you're talking about is that critical moment of why would we decide to change? Either you've got to be in enough pain and get knocked on your butt enough times or be in enough of that rock bottom place, or you've got to choose, am I going to keep showing up this way? Am I going to keep getting the same results? And you've got to decide. My NFA mantra is always decide, commit, take NFA action. And NFA stands for no effing around. I don't know if we can say swear words on here. So.
I'm trying to keep it.
Okay, got it.
So that all the 5-year-olds can watch this program also.
Yeah, so no fooling around, we'll say.
Okay.
So it's decide, commit, take no fooling around action. When you really want something and you have certainty, you're going to go all the way. And when you're, thinking about manifestation and magnetism and those types of things, when you're serious and committed, you send a signal to the universe that it's like, hey, you're going all the way. I'll bring you opportunities. And so for me, it really started with like, I got to start playing with self-confidence, and I've got to start growing my confidence and stop comparing myself negatively to everybody else. I mean, I don't care who you are. I negatively compared myself to other women for sure too. Being like Native American and first-gen college student and all those things, I pretty much pedestalized everybody. And so anytime you are feeling inferior in a situation, it's because you're putting the other person on a pedestal and yourself in the pit. And you're thinking, I'm not as good as you, you're better than me. And it's going to cause you internally to show up disempowered. And then you're not going to get the results you want. And so you've got to start playing with your own sense of personal power and self-worth and really stopping yourself in the moment when you're having those thoughts. It's like I used to just visualize a stop sign in my brain. Like I'd notice the thoughts and I'd just put a stop sign in my brain and be like, stop. Do I choose to keep having this thought? Because this is what's creating my reality of being inferior. The universe is bringing back to me inferior opportunities and I want superior opportunities. So it's like, I'm just going to play with like showing up differently. It's almost like putting on an act for a while. And then you like start to notice that people respond to you differently. And what you realize the whole time, and I always say this to everybody, is that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. And if you don't like what you're getting on the outside, you got to change what's within. And what happens is when you start playing with that, you notice people responding differently. You're like, oh, this whole time it was all just me. I'm the one that was creating this reality. And when I really got that and started digging into quantum physics and manifestation and law of attraction, all those things, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like you can actually create your reality by becoming a different person yourself. And it's not the world around me that's dictating my results. And that was huge liberation for me.
No, I think that's something every entrepreneur needs to have, that epiphany.
Yeah.
Where they get to a point, they understand who they are, they understand the value that they bring to the world. And when we're raising capital, commonly what I find is that if I'm talking to someone who has a resource that I need for me or one of my projects, my first job is actually to quit talking about me.
Yeah.
And start trying to explain or explore how I'm helping the other person.
Yeah.
Because if I'm helping them improve their business, if I'm helping them make a sale, if I'm helping them with a social cause, if we have some commonality and there is a benefit to them helping me, helping them, that win-win situation then takes over and dominates the conversation.
Yeah.
At that point, they don't care whether I'm tall or short,
totally,
male or female, because we now have got their self-interest in the middle of the table.
Yeah.
And that's a great place to have a conversation, because you will have a conversation. And once we're having a conversation, then everything's behind us.
Yeah.
It is interesting how you walk in and you go, I have all these obstacles in front of me, and they're not really there.
Right. It's all made up in your mind.
Yeah, it's all made up in your mind.
Yeah.
And you go, and you think about it, you go, did they plan all day for this conversation? No. Did they try all day to come up with different ways to tell you no? No, that didn't happen either.
They didn't even think about you at all.
Yeah, actually, the truth of the matter is, until you showed up and go, oh, who's that?
Yeah.
And at that point, you're an absolute blank canvas. You have the ability to guide the conversation. You have to engage in the other person.
Yeah.
And if we can find a situation where we both benefit, let's talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell people fear, because what you're talking about is fear, right? It's just internal fear. So my acronym for fear is future expectation of awful results. So you're just making up a whole big story in your mind of something awful that's going to happen that you're just projecting into the future that isn't real at all. So you might as well just decide, no, let's make up a fun story of the greatest thing ever happening. And even if it doesn't, at least you spent the time before that feeling good.
Well, and one of the things I sometimes see is self-growth, putting on the creative hat.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, we have a deal here we might possibly do. It's okay. Okay, but what can we do creatively to make it better for both of us?
Yeah.
And then start pushing the other person to be creative along with myself and see if we can come up with something with a cherry on top, something with more icing, more of a dessert issue. And if you get the person engaged in, well, what else could I do to be better for you? And at that point, now we're all, I call it, the same side of the table.
Yeah.
And at that point, we're all allies. We're all collaborating together. And we're going to get a good result.
Yeah.
It may not be everything we need, but we don't need to win everything all at once.
Yeah.
Either.
Well, you're talking about, it's collaborative sales, right?
Yes.
Like sales, I always like people to know sales is caring and sharing. That's it. You know, you're just having a conversation and sharing and caring. And if you walk away better friends or just knowing each other better, that's awesome. You know, like the reason we get stuck in sales and negotiating is because we have an agenda that we're pushing instead of collaborating. So you're just talking about collaboration, which is really powerful.
Right. So with that, if somebody wants to buy your book, where would they go to get that?
Yes, go to IamAMoneyMagnetBook.com. IamAMoneyMagnetBook.com. Awesome book, comes with a course. So you get like 30 days of videos sent to you with the book, and it has tons of journaling questions to help you up-level your money mindset and dig into the unconscious money beliefs that you need to unlearn. Most of us did not have our parents teaching us, you know, hey, learn what your zone of genius is and have your money make money for you in easy ways, you know, so we've got to break through and unlearn to be able to do that. And so that's what the book is all about. I have the Women Entrepreneur podcast. So lots of guys listen to it as well. It's a great place for tips and tools and strategies, inspiration. I do live business coaching on there. So really great stuff for entrepreneurs. And then all my social media handles and website, NFA Money. So just go to nfamoney.com and all of my stuff is there.
Very good. And so this is it for today's episode of the Motivated Money Podcast. For those of you who are regular listeners to this podcast, and if you happen to be female, I'm going to challenge you to go into your closet, pick out the top 2 or 3 fears, beat them up, throw them out the window, whatever you're going to do. But I will testify that I don't care. And most people don't. And so if you're having a problem in the conversation, it may be inside of you. And if you read Amanda's book, maybe that'll go away and you'll find yourself in a better place. Thank you today for today's Motivated Money Podcast. Thank you for listening in to Motivated Money. If you like this or any other episodes, make sure to leave a rating and review the show. We love to hear your feedback and want to make this the best possible show for you. Also, if you like this episode, make sure you share it with someone you know who's seeking to raise capital. They will appreciate learning what you now know about raising funding. I'll see you on the next episode of Motivated Money.